as like our reporting in the newspaper, we'll just like run excerpts from this conversation in Thursday's edition.
And extra copies.
And that's right, yeah, that'll be a hot seller, I'm sure. And yeah, just excerpts of this conversation in the newspaper and print, and then referencing for the full audio, people can go to our Denison Times website. So, reporting in kind of an abbreviated campaign like this one, when there's such a small window in between the time when petitions are due and when the ballots are in the mail, presents some challenges, for sure. But that's part of the reason why we decided to kind of go this approach and not a candidates forum, that kind of thing.
So the first thing I'm interested in is sort of an assessment from the prospective candidates of the city's relationship with other entities in the area, whether they be Western, the county, municipalities to the north. And based on that assessment, how or what kind of work might be done to improve those relationships? Leah, you want to tackle this one first?
Well, I would say I'll tackle Western. Let's start with that. I think I've actually learned a lot that the city and Western actually do quite a bit of collaboration and work together as it is. But I think what the public perception is that there isn't a very strong relationship because there isn't a lot of kind of tooting their own horns about what is happening between the city and the college. University, sorry. I sat at the One Valley Prosperity Project meeting last week with actually 2 Western students were at our table, so it was great to get their perspective on things. And one is in an internship right now with the city, and he was just telling me all about it and how wonderful it was. And I thought, well, this is great. Like, why don't we hear more about these collaborations? And I'm a social media junkie in general. And so I think that one of the improvements, a really easy one right off the bat, could be, hey, let's let people know what we're doing, because I just don't think that information is fully out there. So that's an easy fix. That's an easy one. I got the easy one. And then, for the future, and, we may talk about this later. I'm not sure if you're going to bring up Western in general, but the idea has been brought up before about an actual physical corridor, from downtown, from the city to the campus. And I'm a huge proponent of that. Using Gothic I think that's been identified as the best little corridor between the two. So I'd love to see a plan actually be laid out to see how we can make that happen in the years to come. Maybe it starts off small, flags, colors, whatever, and then eventually, that street goes small, big, small, big. So of course we'd have to make it one nice width, consistent, but it would be a visual, link between downtown and the university. So that's what I would say about that.
Matt?
I would love to see the city work more closely with outside entities. I think that I agree with what Leah said, that we're working with Western. Nobody really realizes how much the city works with Western, but I think that we can work with them in other ways that we haven't explored yet. I think we can bring forth some small business coaching situations. I know they've got ICE working at Western. I would love to see the city work closely with those folks. I think that we can utilize a lot of the classwork that goes on there to help the city. I know that when we brought forth ballot proposal 1A, it was a Western class that did our surveying for us, which was tremendously helpful in engaging public opinion and figuring out the direction we wanted to head. I think that we can continue to develop those kinds of relationships with the school, which is symbiotic. It works well for both the city and the students.
This next question, Matt, I'll let you answer first. We have a set of draft marijuana regulations that, would pertain to, commerce in particular, that's on the table currently. Do you support the current draft?
It is hard to support the current draft because I don't think we've actually seen the current draft. We haven't seen everything. So far, I do support the map, but I haven't seen staff's final recommendations
Okay.
on what the ordinance should look like, the ordinances should look like. My feeling, my opinion on these regulations are that the people of the city of Gunnison have twice now passed legalized marijuana, and whether we like it or not, it's a fact we have to deal with. I believe that business owners should be given the best possible opportunity to be successful, and therefore it's important that the city does not regulate these businesses to the point where they don't have the same opportunities for success than any other business in the city of Gunnison would have.
Leah?
Absolutely second, everything Matt just said. And, as far as, locations and things like that, I think there's such a potential to really start to build on an area of town that may not be very successful right now, maybe a little regentrification, like that's been proposed, like, west side of town and things like that. I think that's fantastic. Because I do believe that once these retail shops open up, that area around them is going to thrive. I don't believe they have to be on Main Street by any means, and I agree with council's decision on that, because people will seek it out for sure. So, yeah.
Bob and Ann, I want to give you guys a chance to talk.
Well, it's been interesting.
I'm
so
gonna
far.
go ahead and ask both of you a few questions just to sort of change it up and allow you some an opportunity to address some issues. Economic development was really, I guess I'll say, a topic that was given some attention early on, around the first year or so of both of your terms. Can you point to any sort of initiatives or things that the city has done that you think really improve business in town? And I'll let you answer that one first.
Well, this is the only time I've wanted to yield to the gentleman. Certainly you can see evidence right now going on Main Street, and we have worked with zoning, we have worked with architects, we have worked with a lot of establishments to bring. And if you see, right now, we have just approved, or in the process of approving, some changes to the face of Main Street, whereby people will, in 2 instances, have a view of open air and space, and it really enhances those businesses on Main Street. We've also, been very cooperative in extending other opportunities to business persons that come to us. I think the marijuana regulations, those are really right now the crux. But we're, as both of these speakers say, we're going to have them. And we haven't made a plan whereby, to the best of our ability, from what we've heard, those will be allotted spaces and spaces that will be produced. One gentleman said from the audience, "My son on his easy phone can find any location he needs." And of course, it isn't that hard to find a shoe shop, or to find where Ace is, or to find where other things are, because we're not an overly big establishment in this valley. I think that we have been very friendly toward businesses and have been always ready to try to resolve any issues that have been, and we've done that successfully. So that's kind of it in a nutshell.
Well, I'm glad to see that the One Valley Prosperity Project is off and running, and I think it's going in the right direction. We've had opportunities like that in the past, and they've kind of fizzled out before they really had a chance to bloom. And I think with what is going on there, the guidance from the Sonoran Institute, I believe that we really have the potential to move our community and valley forward. I am fortunate to serve on Region 10, which is a economic development unit, organization. But and we've had quite a number of people that own businesses that have borrowed money from actually Region 10 from the, and so that's exciting to see that we have programs that are outside that we can bring in and help. And then of course the Small Business Administration with Lafferty here, and then the people that are in Montrose collaborating and bringing some real I think good programs to small businesses that can help. So that's a real thrill to be involved in that program, and basically that's one of the reasons I'd like to continue to run. I'm chair of Region 10 at the moment, and up until my first 3 years serving on that board of directors, the chair stayed until May, and so I knew my term was coming up, and I thought, well, they're finished in May. I'll be, if I don't run or if I don't make it, I'll be finished in May. And then they read the bylaws and determined that the chair is supposed to be seated till July, and so you know, I would like to finish out my term, even though I thought it ended in May, and it's a good program. We there's also just I hope the businesses understand there's a small business loan that's based on need of $1,500 to $3,500, where you can get a loan very easily. You don't have to go through all the process that usually you do for a loan. And so you know, if a business needed a new computer system that might fit in those areas, and it's easy to qualify for. So anyway, that's exciting from that aspect, that we have a group that includes 6 counties and we're a part of that can really help our business. And then the other things that I see going on, we have 2 groups in our community that are really moving towards helping small businesses, especially those that are achieving, like the IDS group. I believe they're called the Gunnison River Partnership, and so that's really exciting to see the things that they are doing. We've been in communication with them, and then another group that's I don't know how they're kind of loosely put together. It's called the Big Institution Group, and they meet on occasion, and basically it's the big institutions in the valley. I think there are 5 that meet, and so we've tried to support those people as well. And so, as Ann said, we've worked with businesses on Main Street to accomplish some things, beautifying our community, and I think as far as doing things with Western, we've talked about, how do we get that corridor going? What's the best way for us as a city to help recruit people to Western? Mm-hmm. And of course, one of them is providing good services for college students as well as our regular constituents, and so that's an important factor, that we want to have a beautiful city. We want to have a city that's safe for all constituents, and provide a nice home for college students away from home when they come to Western.
I want to move on to the safety thing in a minute, but first, last year policy was changed as it pertains to reserves. We saw
yes.
about $1 million, that was available to be spent, and a fire truck, removal of the former city shop, and what was the third thing? Restrooms in city parks was the decision for how that money would be spent. Defend your decision to spend the money in that way. And I ask because lots of ideas were, mentioned of ways to spend it. We'll start with you, Bob.
Okay. Well, as you said, there were lots of ideas thrown around, and I'm not sure that there was anything that was set in stone that we would like to do. But one of the things that I was particularly interested in was the possibility of setting that money aside for a long-term type of approach, where maybe, for example, there has been some knowledge about a purchase of or a land acquisition that we're involved in right now, and I think it'll come forth
Tomorrow.
yes. And so, I see those types of purchases where we don't have to say, well, we're going to increase your taxes to do this, and so over a period of 3 years, we will have like a savings account where we're going to put that money aside, and at the end of those 3 years, we'll have enough money to pay those things directly. And I think the thing that makes me most excited about my first term was the building of the Police and Communication Center with very little, expense to our community. We took money out of reserve to pay for the land itself. We received a $650,000 grant for the building. We received grants from 9/11, 911. Those are the types of things that I see the benefit for as far as accomplishing the things that we'd like to do for our city and not increase any taxes in any way to accomplish those. And this land purchase, I believe we've done some of that with our budgeting, so we don't have to raise taxes. But yet the acquisition will be huge, I think, for our community.
Ann, anything you'd like to add?
Yes, I'm glad he mentioned that we always have had a very concern about the people who supply these benefits for our area, and not to put a burden on them. And during all this time, we have not raised any tax rate, and that's not true for all of the entities that we have in this county. The other thing we have done is to work with the various entities that are there, like for instance, I serve on the Regional Housing Committee for the Gunnison Valley, and we have been able to get more vouchers to help people, which strengthens the workforce. We've also, one of our major projects, of course, is the 30 apartment unit house that is being built in Crested Butte. And someone asked me, how will that help Gunnison? I said, it helps because we have a lot of young people that drive back and forth every day who will now have a decent place to live and be near their work site. And that, all of that adds to the overall economy. I think too that this land acquisition that we've just made is going to be a real boon. It is a development in a section of our county that, having grown up in Westtown, for a long time the railroads, separated, and there were originally two towns. But we've made that into one unit now, and I think it is so good that we're going to develop a lot of that land, so there possibly will be a very lovely park there at both ends of our community. So I think those things all add to the betterment of everybody served, plus a lot of the business comes from the tourism that we have running through here. And I think the better community we have, the more we're able to take advantage of that.
Before we leave the topic of this change of reserve policy and use of the $1 million, Leah, would you have supported spending that money any differently than it was?
I'm not sure, actually. I do like the idea of, not raising taxes and having, that idea of savings. I think that is a very smart plan. I still struggle with the lack of a good strategic plan coming from the city. You know, I agree that yes, businesses on Main Street, we're seeing more of them and more activity, but is it because of the city or is it despite the city? You know, I mean, I would just like to see some money put into an actual plan that gives us a good blueprint for, you know, the next decade or so.
Matt, I'll give you a chance to answer the same question. Use of that $1 million, would you have supported using it differently?
I might have looked at using it a little bit differently. I think that one of the big things that faces the city is the number of facilities that we own and the condition of those facilities. I think we had plenty of money in the bank to fix some roofs at the rec center and fix the roof at the ice rink and some of those things, which to me seem like pretty immediate needs to preserve the investment we've already made in our community. And I think that some of those dollars would have been well put had they gone that direction. I think that maybe holding on to some of that money for a little bit, knowing that we have a transportation plan possibly coming that could be expensive, might have also been a good decision. I'm not sure that the fire truck was the best choice. So I think I would have looked at maybe maintaining what we have and looking at exactly what's coming down the pipeline and trying to put some funds aside to get started on a project like that as soon as possible would have been a great choice.
The concept of business friendliness in Gunnison, I know it's something you've mentioned before. Any specific thoughts on how Gunnison might be friendlier to business than it currently is?
Yes, the number one is to make downtown more pedestrian friendly. We're seeing a tremendous investment in our downtown in Main Street, and it's fantastic. We now have a second block of Main. All of the buildings there are full, and they're all getting a little bit of love and attention, which I think is fantastic. I think if we can slow folks down, that will help to capture some of the traffic that hauls down Highway 50 at 50 miles an hour through town. And I also think that if we can make it a more pedestrian-friendly place, we might actually get more of our local year-round residents spending time in our downtown. It's surprising how many folks you talk to who really don't spend time or money on our Main Street. And I think that if we made it a more pleasant place to be, a safer place to be, that would be a huge help to small business.
Leah, I've heard you speak to a similar sort of idea, transportation downtown.
Yeah, pedestrian, auto, bicyclists, I mean, everybody.
You want to expand a little bit on what your specific thoughts might be? Do you have any?
I think, well, you know, pedestrian crossings have come up a lot in the last year, and as somebody who's been hit as a pedestrian on Main Street while pregnant, that was fun. I definitely, you know, have some strong feelings on that. I totally agree that if we slowed people down, number one, we're going to capture more visitors that are flying by there right now, and we'll make it a safer place. But pedestrian crossings need to be looked at, and this kind of goes back to your very first question of this idea of collaboration with other groups. Like, you know, I have to believe that there's funds out there, grants available, you know, where we can partner with institutions like CDOT and things like that, where we can create some nice, obvious, safe crossings, whether they be raised, whether they be a different texture, whether they be lighted, whatever. There has to be something done, because it's really, you know, it's a time bomb. It's going to happen. We're going to have a bad hit. We're going to have a fatality eventually. I mean, you have 4 lanes of traffic. It's going to happen. You see people leapfrogging across Main Street or Tomichi all the time. So I think lowering speed limits as soon as you come into the city, absolutely. And then on Main Street as well. I've got some other ideas for, you know, more long-term solutions as well, but I think that would be a great start. Good identified crossings, not just little signs that get beat up by every car.
Ann and Bob, this question came before council earlier this year, whether anything could be done, and my understanding was at the time you guys felt pretty hamstrung as to your ability to be able to do anything. Can you sort of explain to us? You know,
I wouldn't think
what
that
this-
we ever felt hamstrung. I think that we found out that one of the biggest obstacles is working with CDOT, because they are the ones that set what the speed limit is on Highway 50. And they weren't, I don't think, too receptive on trying to tone that down for
It
us.
takes a little time to go through them and get approval for various changes, and there are certain changes that they like to hold dear to their chest, and we can't just jump in and say, oh, we're gonna change this speed limit to such and such. And one of the things I think is important to understand, we have a master plan that's being developed at this present time. And hopefully you had a chance to be involved in the discussions of that. We had many meetings for both the rec plan and the city plan, and they're supposed to be completed, if not late summer, in the fall. And so they will hopefully they will speak to a lot of those concerns. And in addition, what we have done, at least for the pedestrian part, we are in the process of getting permission from CDOT to paint, restripe. I think you've heard that plan already, and that's just until we can get the plan in place, get the funding, get the approval from CDOT to actually change the environment of those thoroughfares through town. That's kind of a preliminary plan to hopefully make it safer to be a pedestrian or a bicyclist or a vehicle operator. So that plan, it'll be good to see what that offers. And we have a transportation specialist consultant that's working with the city to put in some advice too on how to make it safer.
And I think too, the places where we've been able to mark bicycle lanes only, that's been a big help. And I guess this isn't to sound critical, but the higher you go for an authority to do something, the slower the response.
Yeah, I think I read on your site where one idea of yours was to make Main Street 2 lanes of traffic instead of 4,
That's the one I wasn't gonna mention yet.
and
Chris,
change
but
the parking to diagonal.
Yeah, I would love to, see, just compare, other towns, like, Uray is an easy example of that when that's been done. And they have very wide streets like we do. They have 2 lanes of traffic. It's very slow. Their speed limit is about, I think, 20, maybe even 15. It's slow. Diagonal parking, so you have tons of parking for those Main Street businesses. So much safer to have a pedestrian trying to cross 2 lanes of traffic rather than 4. So yeah, that's been an idea that I've had in my mind for many years.
Has that been run up the CDOT flagpole or been discussed in the city,
And I don't know
city
in
circles
what
at all?
detail, but yes, again, that's something they have to approve. And you may recall, we had diagonal parking, was that in the 80s?
On Main?
Yes, on Main Street. And at some point, CDOT allowed us to go to 2 lanes and parallel parking. And then, of course, they had to approve the sidewalks. Remember, the sidewalks were redone, again, was that 6-8 years ago? I lose track of time. But so a lot of those things have been discussed. And again, I'm really excited about seeing what the master plan, what the consultants come up with and say these are the things that the people wanted, and we've incorporated those in our plans. So we'll see what it looks like.
I want to move on to a question about that everyone can get an opportunity to answer. About a recent request on the part of proponents of the senior center. Waiver of usage of fees, security provided to the center, and easier access. do you support any of these requests is the question. Would you support any of them?
I'd like to answer it. We're in the process of responding to that. I have an idea that I intend to propose, and that is, we are building on at the request basically of the seniors for more space and for a separate space that they can use through the daytime. And with the regulations we've set upon this new building, they will have access to it and sole access to their portion through the daytime. We have talked, and I think that it will be evolved, that they have keys, so that particularly those persons that are disabled don't have to go all the way through the front door, all the way back, but they can just use their key and they're admitted. I think there's a possibility of increasing the fees for people who come here in the summer and use the facility, but are not really paying the property tax that is going to support that addition. Now, it's true, they spend money here and that's sales tax and that helps. I think it's also possible that we continue to, respond in any way we can, but there's an investment that has to be paid for, and we have to plan how that is going to play out. Right now, of course, we've gone ahead with the addition. We're opening bids, and it's going to happen. But trying to make that all come down to the point it doesn't cost more to individuals who may not be using it that much. So.
Okay. I want to give everyone an opportunity to answer that. Matt, what are your thoughts? Should these fees be waived? Should additional?
I think that I could certainly agree to some of the requests that are in the memorandum of agreement, but there are others that I don't think I could agree to. I absolutely agree that there should be easily accessible entrance to the new senior edition, and I think the city should do whatever it takes to make that happen, whether it's a key card system, which has been suggested or not. I think that the city's general position on instances like this are that nobody gets to use facilities for free. I can give you the example of ice hockey. I know they built their own shade cover right before I moved to Gunnison, and the city charged what it cost to maintain the facility. We then raised money to improve the facilities with new boards and glass and things of that nature, and the city still charged the amount that it cost to maintain the facility. I think that asking seniors to pay the membership fee for the community center at, say, approximately $100 a year is much less expensive than if they were to lease that space or a similar space on their own. I think that if we're going to build city facilities, then it should be the responsibility of the users to pay for those city facilities, at least the maintenance of those city facilities.
Okay. Leo?
Well, I think we need to be really sympathetic to this demographic in particular when it comes to finances, because so many of them are in a situation where they're extremely limited on their income, right? They have fixed income. $100 may not sound like much, to us, but it could mean a whole lot to a senior that, does not have any extra every month. So I think that part still needs to be worked out. I'm hoping that, the conversation continues, and then it's not an absolute, listen, you pay this, or you don't use the facility. I hope there can be a medium ground to find there. And I wonder things like, marijuana taxation, like we haven't decided where are those tax dollars going? Could a percentage of that go to facility uses in general for the city of Gunnison? Maybe we can lower costs, not just for seniors, but maybe we can lower costs for families and kids and programs. Just a thought, so.
Okay. Bob, anything that, any other thoughts on that?
Well, one of the arguments is that this group of people are the ones who have throughout their lifetime built our community to what it is today, and we should look at that and give them some type of a reward for that the role that they have played in bringing Gunnison to the place it is today. But on the flip side of that coin, then you say, well, yes, I agree. I think they're on fixed incomes. They're struggling to put, the medicine in the medicine cabinet and food on the table. And so the question becomes, well, who is going to pay for, the upkeep, the maintenance, the cleaning of those areas that they will use? So the question again is, should young families that are struggling also to make ends meet, should we raise their prices of the fees so that they can, so that it would be on their backs that we would pay for what the seniors use? It's a question that we need to examine, and hopefully after last week's meeting we're closer on the entrance and the accessibility part, and I still don't understand some of their concerns on the use of it. They say that they don't want to have it limited to their organization or their demographic age group, but I still am not sure I understood that. But what we have tried to do is ask staff to go back with them and talk about the fee and determine a good way to do that. And I agree. I'm not sure how tongue-in-cheek Ken was when he mentioned the use of the tax receipts for marijuana going towards that, but that might be a partial solution to the concerns that we have. I see both sides of the argument. It's not something that I see as black and white, and this is where we need to go.
I want to pose a question that I'm actually going to answer later, or I'm going to ask later, because I want you to think of your answers for it. In 3 words, what are your budget priorities? And we'll come back to that. For the next question, it appears likely that the current city manager will retire in the next few years. That idea has been raised.
Do you know something we don't?
Well, I think it was, mentioned earlier this year, and, is certainly within the realm of possibility.
Oh, certainly.
How would you approach the replacement of the current city manager? That's the first part of the question. The second is, would you prioritize finding someone from within the current organization? We'll start with Leah on this.
Thank you.
Well, first part of that question, definitely an open process. I would advertise it, finding the best man or woman for the job. So no, I would not just look internally. I would definitely recommend that it be an open process that is well advertised. I think this one prosperity project, I would like to see hopefully that come to a conclusion before we have to go looking, because hopefully that is going to again provide us with some kind of a blueprint of values that we've identified as a valley, and it would make sense that we take the conclusion of this project and use that for hiring. So,
Matt?
I agree with Leah. I would look to open the process. I think that the more candidates you bring in, the better chance you have of picking one that's exceptional. So I think that that's important. I would not in any way discourage any current staff from applying for the position, but I think the larger your applicant pool, the better chance you have of getting the best possible person for the job.
Bob?
Thank you. Well, we have been very fortunate in having Ken as a manager for all of these years, and the reason that he has worked out so well is because he did work his way up through all of the areas that basically he manages, and except for finance department, maybe he didn't work in there, but you know, because of the respect that the employees had for him and the understanding of the fact that he'd been through all of those areas and had experience making decisions, and they could come to him and say, well, you know, what did you do during your time with the water department? And so, and maybe he didn't, I don't remember if he worked in the electric department, but anyway, he had a very good foundation of understanding of what went into making a city work. And so because of that, he had a lot of support from his staff. And so the whole process, yes, we have to open it up to get a better group of people to come and apply, and no, I would not just prohibit an in-house candidate from applying or looking at an in-house person. So we have to open it up.
Well, to my knowledge, that is not difficult to answer at all, because that has been our practice in the past. Ever since I've been on the council, when we had a position, it has been advertised. We have worked with Employment Service. We have worked with the Colorado departments that have that expertise.
CML.
And so anybody that's on staff has certainly a right to apply. And it may be that some of those have had a little bit of an edge because they already have a background within city government. They're also already trained, but I feel that we'll come up with a good city manager. I'm just disappointed that he is feeling that he's getting at the age where I felt I did, but you know, he has done an excellent job. And for instance, one evening when all of us went home, we'd had a problem brought to us. It was 10:30 at night. We were all tired, but not Ken. He went over to the site where the problem was, talked to the people that were involved and that were making the noise, and came back and made the right answer. So I think certainly that would not be a problem in terms of being open. We're that way with every position we have. And some people who are with the city have an edge on that because they've had a training and an orientation and would do well. I think the county wishes we'd stop looking there.
Leah and Matt both spoke to marijuana regulations, and I want to ask you both a question with respect to this topic, and that is, we have this map that was created, that has been created, that is being circulated, that bars certain zones of the city from, you know, these businesses being allowed to locate there that otherwise might be allowed for, say, establishments like a liquor store. Explain to me do you support the logic of excluding areas like the Central Business District, B1 zone, from these stores being able to allow to locate there, and why? And what should we
All right.
answer first?
First of all, I would like to see about the same regulation that we have for liquor stores, that they not be within a certain distance of a school, of a religious facility, and then allow them that way. However, it's amazing how many calls I've had just really up in arms about any marijuana shops in our fair city. So it's a hard question to decide, but I think at least those restrictions that we have with liquor stores should be the same for marijuana stores. Whether that'll happen will be up to the majority.
Well, as Matt pointed out, the people have voted. It is the law of the land, and we need to provide for those establishments and a place for those establishments. I wrote a letter to the council as well as to planning and zoning, and I think what we need to base our priority on is the safety and well-being of our children and youth, and we have had you know, the gamut of, well, we don't have to worry about our youth or children by restricting where those establishments can be held or established. or built or anyway housed, to the other extreme of saying, we don't want to be able to see them as we drive through town. We want them hidden somewhere. And so again, I think if we establish the priority that we are concerned about protecting the youth and children of our community, and then work from there to establish where these marijuana establishments can be housed, I think we'll be on good ground. So I'm for the buffers that the planning and zoning as well as the staff have presented them, including the parks and religious facilities.
This question is for both Leah and Matt. Are there any decisions that current council has made you disagree with and that you would handle differently? If so, how? Leah?
No, not in recent, no.
Okay. Matt?
No, actually, I think current council's done a great job.
Then I want to ask the question that I posed earlier. What are
In
your
3 words?
What are your budget priorities in 3 words? Matt?
Maintenance, infrastructure, public safety.
Okay. Bob?
I commend Matt for his decision and agree.
Ann?
Continue to build the community to the betterment of all citizens, to raise the pay of those city employments so that we are competitive with other areas our size, and to always keep safety, health, and development in the foreburner.
Now, can you put that in 3 words?
Yes. Foreburner, safety.
Hey. Okay. Leah?
Safety, infrastructure, and business.
On the topic of budgeting, we've seen in recent weeks some slightly different approaches to how the whole grants and contracts, contributions portion of the budget has worked. In your opinion, does the process work? Or is there clear-cut rationale and fairness in how the city doles out money to these groups, organizations, and events that approach city leaders?
I need you to clarify the question a little bit
Okay.
further in terms of
I'm
which
going to
portion
let
of the
Leah go
budget.
first, though.
Okay.
But, I will
Okay.
clarify the budget, or the question. Does the process work? Is it fair how the city currently handles grants, contracts for service?
I think it is a gray area. We do have so many people asking for so much, but what I don't like to see is the city giving it to a group as like that's an intermediary that's then going to give it to out again, you know. So there should be
Is
no
there something
filter in the middle.
That comes to mind, like in particular, or
Well,
trying to envision that sort of.
you know, let me think of a good example here. You know,
In other words, you would just like to see to ensure if it's going to continue in the way that it does currently, that it benefit clearly
right, a
an
clear
organization
benefit. Okay.
in the city.
Yes,
Okay.
right.
Okay. Anything else you want to add to that?
I'll think about that.
Okay,
May
all right.
interject in
Okay.
a second.
Or we can add addendums?
Can we?
We allow
You
one.
didn't
We
notice?
allow one go back.
Oh, one go back, one more go back.
One mulligan.
Yeah, that's good. And
I think it is fair. Each entity gets to come before the council with their proposal, they get to defend it, but there's never enough money to meet all of the requests to the degree they'd like. So we try to take a look at that and make some equity in terms of where we give the money. And I think it's a hard one to manage. It's like having 5 kids, and what do you do about the allowances, you know? It's never enough. But we have made a good effort to be fair and to know that the money is going to produce economically in the city.
Yes, that's a very hard part of the budgeting process. We sit down and that probably takes more time individually than any other aspect of the budget. When we sit down and we go through all of the application, and the application includes how many people does that benefit from our city? How about from outside of our city? And they're all good. They're all needy. They're all important items, and it's very difficult. We've had some discussion about whether or not we should do the same thing that the county does and turn it over to the foundation and let them worry about that. I'm not sure that that's the best thing to do, but
Doesn't sound like Leo would support that either.
but it is very difficult. And so, you know, should we do a first come, first serve basis? You know, I don't think that meets the best expenditure of our funds. It's just very difficult to determine which one should receive more, less. And so I think our application process is very good. It includes lots of things. You know, how are you benefiting the city? How are you benefiting the constituents? How many are you impacting by this? And so, you know, I think the process is fair, but it's
Hard.
it is some brain drain when we get to that.
Some people still like us when it's done.
Could I
Yeah,
ask
there
a
are
question
those things.
actually?
I'm sorry?
Could I ask a question
Sure.
actually? Is there some process of reporting after the fact back to
Yes.
council? Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
No,
To be considered next time around, you look back and see, yeah,
Right.
okay, good.
yes, and that's part of what, you know, the number of people you served inside the city, those who were visitors. How many did you bring to the city, you know, to provide us with sales tax revenue?
Yeah.
And it's a good process, but it's a mind bender.
Okay, Matt, thoughts?
I can't give a truly informed opinion because I'm not sure how the public grant process works within the city completely. In terms of contracts for service, I think that the city does a very good job, especially in giving a little bit of favoritism to local businesses so that we reinvest our own dollars back into our own community. But I have to be able to say I think it's a fair process, I have to better understand the process. It's something I've got to learn.
Do you know approximately in your current budget what that line item is for
Oh,
I'm not sure what it even is called in your line item, grants and contributions or contracts for services.
$140,000.
yeah, it's substantial.
And it's
But-
been distributed among roughly how many
Oh,
organizations? Dozen?
that I don't know. Oh,
I
more
would
than
say
that.
about 25 to 30. It's
More than
a
that,
broad
yeah.
process.
And we do, you know, there are large line items, like 30,000, was it housing authority, we gave 30,000
Yes, but the
to,
county, there were 3
so-
entities there that did that, and that was to improve housing everywhere in the county. And all of the entities did 30,000 per year for 3 years. This is the last year of that.
and that's where the 125,000 came for GVAL, was out of that section of the budget. But I don't, yeah, I would say 140. I was gonna say 125, but it's probably 140. I haven't looked at that for a while, but it's a good chunk. And we take it very seriously. That session is a long one, isn't it? When
Yes,
we,
it is.
when we deal with that section of the budget.
I want to ask one more question with respect to the current marijuana regulations that are on the table, and then I think we beat that dead horse enough.
Could we have
But-
smoke?
that's one of those
Quote
excerpts
Paul.
that's
That's
gonna
quote
be.
Paul.
You've already had too much caffeine lately, yeah.
This,
Oh, there has to be something of it.
Actually, you can't, Ann, because we don't have any regulations yet.
Is this cigarette?
Well, it can't be done in public, so.
Private facility.
there was this idea of July 1st being the date by which it was hoped these organizations or these regulations would take effect. One, I'm curious in where that date came from, why July 1st, and the question was asked why it couldn't be changed, why it couldn't be expedited, this whole process. I'm curious in both of your thoughts on that. If Matt and Leah would like to chime in at all afterward, I'm interested in that as well. Bob, do you want to answer that question? Where did July
I can't
first come from?
say specifically where, I know that in meetings prior to the vote, that was kind of the date that was put out there that, well, it's gonna take us some time to put these regulations together. We hope that July 1st will be the start date, and we should come fairly close to that with first reading, and I don't know the dates specifically.
Second
but
reading scheduled for June 23rd.
the second, so
So it would
after
be
that,
what,
then-
July 6th?
I think
then?
that's what
Okay.
they said. But anyway, it's part of the process. There are a certain number of days that have to be maintained between certain aspects of the, like public hearings and so I don't know if it's tied up within the original amendment that was passed at the state level. I really don't have but I know we'll have it finished by the end of June. So
My feeling is that we wanted the time to do it right the first time around. It's tremendously intricate bunch of laws when you look at them. If it's a private grower, if it's a commercial grower, there are, all kinds of air passages you have to have, and whether you can have it in one building or two buildings, and so there's a lot to be considered. And I think that we took this through our regular process, through the zoning and planning and zoning, and then through staff meetings, and then get feedback from the council, get feedback from the public, and then finally adopt it. So it isn't something that you could rush at in 1 week, or 2 weeks, or 2 months. So I think we're going to do it, and I think we're gonna get it right the first time, and I think it's gonna work for the city of Gunnison and for its citizenry.
Matt, anything else you'd like to add on that topic? Is there something you'd like to respond to with respect to what the current councilors have said?
No, I think that the process is where it is at this point. It looks like everything's set up to be accomplished as quickly as possible. I think, the new council is gonna vote on these regulations, and I'm gonna watch the process closely. Hopefully, it will be, okay, I'm up to speed and a rubber stamp, let's let these individuals invest in our community situation, rather than delaying those folks who are chomping at the bit to get started.
Leanne, anything you'd
I-
like to- yeah.
Completely agree 100%. Thanks,
I
Matt.
like you both.
I do have one final question, which really speaks to, I think it's an opportunity to use it kind of as a closing statement, or, to address a topic maybe we haven't talked about that's important to you, a sort of big idea that you may have. Chris, you guys have anything else before?
No.
Before that?
I do have a quick question. Crescent View is going through a similar process of planning for its transportation needs, and you talked about, Bob, wanting to wait on consultants to see what they've got in mind for this transportation plan before moving it forward, and of course that takes time. What do you do if those consultants come back with something that the community doesn't like? Is it back to the drawing board? Does it take more time?
well, then we shouldn't be paying our consultants if they come back with something that the constituents didn't. I mean, the purpose, we were very specific and directed in getting feedback from our community. And if the consultants are doing what we want them to do, or what our community wants them to do, they're gonna design something after that fact that's gonna be safe and productive for our community. So maybe we shouldn't pay those consultants if they come back with something that's way out there. But I think the main thing that at least this council and me personally are concerned with, that we don't go out and spend a lot of money, tearing up pavement, and then not having that be something that the community desires. We want it to be functional, safe, and something that really works for us as a community and who we are. And so that's why we've been very specific and detailed in our getting these comments from the community. And I forget what they're like, 400. We've had a chance to read through, and you probably have too, all of those comments. And so if the consultants come through with a different plan than what our community has desired, we shouldn't be paying those consultants.
Chris, anything?
No, I think my question can probably be summed up with the closing
Okay.
topic.
So I guess you get your choice, either a closing statement or some big idea you may have that hasn't been discussed yet. We'll go this way around the table. Leah?
Well, I guess we'll do a combo then. Basically, I am running to, be a voice for the community. I'm not doing this for some stepping stone for political gain. I am wholeheartedly 100% Gunnison, and I care very much about, the success of this city, and that's why I'm running. And then I just like to reiterate on the fact of that we have so much potential, in this valley for collaboration, and we touched very, small today when we talked about Western, but there are so many other collaborations available. And I have heard there's quite a bit of dissension between city and county, and I think we can all work together very well and have way more success.
Ann?
Well, first of all, my goal has always been that first of all and foremost, we put those services of the city that only we can provide, like safe water, good electricity, good transportation routes, safety of its citizens, good police department, all of those must be first and foremost. And then if there are resources left, then and only then can we branch out to do other things. Otherwise, we will be just shallow in what we provide that we're responsible for. I'm running because this time I think I'm a better candidate than I was 2 years ago. I have learned a tremendous amount. I've never missed a council meeting. I have never missed a subsidiary meeting, and I've met more persons that are really interested in the city. So I feel whatever I have to give, I'd like to be there to do it, and if I'm elected, I will be.
Bob?
Well, I just think that we're very fortunate to live in Gunnison, a community that I've been in for many, many years, and it's always been one of collaboration among various groups, whether it's College City, County City, Upper Gunnison River Water Conservancy District, city, but it is what has made us live in a community that we desire to live in. And I just feel blessed to be here and live in the community, and spent 31 years as an educator here, and concerned for families and kids and safety, and we've started a lot of projects that we've not had a chance to complete during this term, and I'd like to see those come to fruition and continue this wonderful place as we know it as home, and continue it in a situation that we can still enjoy to call it home.
Are we under obligation to say how long we've served, how long we've been here?
No.
You all the record.
You got me beat, I'm sure, yeah.
Well, I was born here.
Oh.
I pretty much have lived in the whole area.
I agree with Bob. We are blessed to live in Gunnison.
Yes.
My wife and I came here to purchase a business and have worked very hard to remain here and be successful. We love raising our children here, and I want to work to make sure that the city continues to foster folks just like me. I really am enjoying the momentum we have going right now from an economic standpoint, and I think that my 3 budget priorities I mentioned, maintenance, infrastructure, and public safety, a council that invests in those things becomes a business-friendly council who helps to continue the momentum that we're seeing on the economic side. I'm really excited to get to work for the community, to meet more people than I already have, and to take as much input as I possibly can and turn it into building the city that we all feel we deserve.
And I think our greatest asset is our people. We have
We authorize-
tremendously intelligent people, educated people, people that care for our community and only desire to see it be the best it can be. And that's exciting to be a part of.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, thank you all for coming here today and allowing us to chat with you for sure. And more importantly, thanks for tossing your hats into the arena of
I'm just glad we didn't have to put on those black and white suits. I like when they line you up.